Okay, my name is Robert Gassaway. I was born in 1932. I'm chairperson of the trustees of White Rock Church. I would like to testify on behalf of White Rock Church and the cemetery. I have been here in White Rock Church for all my life, for around 79 years. In 1995, I retired from my job. At that time, we were adding on to the church. I worked with the contractor for 1 year, free. My mother and father were members of this church. They worked very hard to keep things going. My father helped clean up the cemetery with his horses, moving trees and dirt around to level the yard. My grandparents and great-grandparents helped build this church in the middle 1800s. That was, in June of '04, we needed a new roof on the church. The trustee members came together and raised the money to build a church, which was around $10,000. I have brothers and sisters, uncles buried here in this cemetery. My family purchased grave lots from the church. The money was used to pay Washington Conference dues. We worked very hard to keep the church beautiful for our community. Thank you very much.
Sister Marianna Collins, you were raised here, born in Baltimore City, but you came here young.
No, I was raised right out here in the country from 2 weeks old. My grandparents raised me over in Gaither. You know where Gaither, they called it Gaither Road, but it was Gaither, Maryland then. And I walked from there to down at the church, the school down here in the bottom, to go to elementary school.
How about high school?
But high school, I went to Robert Moulton.
What was that like?
Oh, it was all right. It was, yeah, we did good in there.
How'd you get to school?
How did I get? What you mean to Robert Moulton?
Either one of them.
Well, they had buses when I went to Robert Moulton School. They picked us up in
Where did they pick you up?
Johnsville. See, it was school in Johnsville too, on Johnsville Road.
How did you get from home to Johnsville?
Bus on the buses, and I later years, see, I had 3 buses myself.
What was it like growing up in Carroll County then?
Oh, it wasn't too bad. I didn't think it was. And I was raised right there. My grandparents is the ones that raised me there.
How
long was your walk to school when you first started?
Oh, I walked from Gaithers down to the school in the bottom here. So what would you say that was?
Well, that's 2.5 miles from back where you lived out here. That's at least 2.5 miles.
And I come through there, Bob Shipley's road, and then cross to Sidney and them's road, come through there, and then come out down here where Sheppard's Lane is, and walk.
What was the day like in school?
Oh, what was it like? Well, you just went in there and had class. It wasn't too bad in the school, but because we didn't have, we didn't know. It's just what they furnished us, you know.
Was it
All
one
of us in
teacher?
one room, all of us in one.
How many classes in one?
Yeah, right.
7.
7th to 7th grade, 1st to 7th.
How old are you, Sister Collins, you might.
86.
86.
Mm-hmm.
About how many kids altogether in 7 grades? 50? Not that
No, it
many.
wasn't that many. No, nothing like that. I'd say it was about 15 or 20. Mm-hmm.
Did you help the younger kids if you were older?
Yeah, but very seldom, because he was all in one room. 1st to 7th grade. Uh-huh.
Who was your teacher?
Now, can I remember who was my first? Oh, I should be able to, but I can't remember now. Who was my first? I can't
Probably
remember.
Sterling Brown,
No.
Joe, Body, Mr. Body, what's
Yeah,
Ross
Mr.
Body?
Yeah, Mr. Body was the teacher. I do
Ross
remember him
Body.
being that's the only thing I can remember now.
Did
Cause
Mr. Lee teach you?
huh?
Mr. Lee teach you? Mr.
Yeah, I
Lee?
think Mr. Lee did teach
Yeah.
me. There's Gosnell, one of the Gosnell fellows taught me too, but that was at Johnsville. You know, that was school there at Johnsville, where you come out.
What kind of work did your parents do?
My grandparents that raised me rode Henryton State Hospital. That's where they worked.
Brother Sheppard, give us your name and tell us something about your early experiences.
All right, my name is Sidney Sheppard. I was born and raised in Carroll County. I was born on what is now Shepherd's Lane, which is 1 mile from this church. I grew up in this church. My mother brought me here the first time. I guess I was still in her womb. White Rock Road was a dirt road, county road. This whole area was farmland. The major industry in Carroll County when I grew up was agriculture. The elementary school was down at the intersection of White Rock Road and Streaker Road. The Sheppard family house on Shepherd's Lane was the closest house to the school where black folks live. As Marianna said, that they would come to my house. In the wintertime, they'd come in and get warm. In the summertime, they'd go to the well and get a drink of water. We'd all walk to White Rock School together. My house was 1 mile from the school. It was a 1-room school, grades 1 through 7. My first teacher's name was George Brown. He taught me in the 1st and 2nd grade. My second teacher was Sterling Brown. He taught me in the 3rd and 4th grade. My 4th teacher was Ross Body. He taught me in the 5th grade. My next teacher was Gladys Sheppard. She taught me in the 6th and 7th grade. Graduated from elementary school. I went to high school, to Robert Moulton High School. I walked from Shepherd's Lane to Liberty Road. We caught the school bus on Liberty Road. We rode the school bus from White Rock Road and Liberty Road to Westminster. Robert Moulton High School, as I look back, had many things, deficiencies, but at the time it was the biggest, the best thing that I'd ever been a part of.
How do you think your life compared to your friends or relatives who were born and raised somewhere else? Did you have relatives who were born and raised in the city, and did you know about what their experiences were there?
I didn't have any relatives who were born and raised in the city. My relatives were born and raised in the country. my mother's side of the family, my mother came from Charles County. My grandfather was a tobacco farmer in Charles County. My relatives who lived in Carroll County came up under the same circumstances as I was.
My sisters and brothers were born in Baltimore, and that's where they were raised, in Baltimore. So, but I was out here in the country, so I had no experience with them because my grandmother took me at 2 months old, and that's where I was at until, I left till I got old enough to leave home.
Did you have any interactions, though, with your brothers and sisters back in Baltimore?
Mm-mm.
Not at all?
None at all, no,
Okay.
none at all.
So you didn't know how they lived?
No, I didn't. Because I thought I wouldn't leave my grandmother and grandfather. That's it.
How did you all do your shopping in those days? Clothing,
Well-
food?
Say that again.
How did you all do your shopping? Where did you do your shopping?
Well, my parents did most of their shopping in Sykesville
Yeah, and
In
we
Sykesville.
all of. I think it was for all of us.
with a horse and wagon.
Yes.
We had no cars. We had a horse and wagon.
My grandfather, they had an old Chevrolet with them curtains on them blowing.
Yeah.
Curtains blowing out.
Some of the stores were in Sykesville then.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Are
Yeah.
those names still around?
Well, I know.
Margaret Harris
Yeah.
and,
If I
and
may,
her brother.
Sykesville was the main shopping area for this. Main Street Sykesville was the main shopping area for this area.
Yes, this area is Carroll County.
Two grocery stores, Henry Forsyth and Marian Harris.
Marian Harris.
They also
And
had
Marian Harris's sister had
a
the clothing store.
Clothing store. We had a
Well,
drug
they
store.
were called department stores. Marian Harris's was a department store. Brown, A.C. Brown, Forsyth came out of A.C. Brown
Yeah.
department store. It had a grocery department, and clothes and furniture also. Well, I don't know about furniture, but I clothes.
Well,
But my family did most of their shopping for clothes in Baltimore City or Washington, D.C. I had older sisters who lived in Washington. I had uncles and aunts on my mother's side of the family who lived in Washington. So a lot of my things I had as a youngster came from Washington.
we also had a hardware store there in Sykesville, and we also had a 5 and dime store, and had a drug store. The funeral parlor was all there in Sykesville, right in Sykesville.
It sure was.
Post office, everything was right there. Feed store, 2 feed stores. For
When
livestock.
I grew up, Eldersburg was a crossroads.
Yeah.
Eldersburg consisted of a filling station, 2 country stores, and a saddle shop.
Yeah.
Sure was.
How about raising food for your family and not just buying it? Did your family have a
Yes, we
big
had
garden?
a big garden.
I think we all had,
We,
had gardens too.
We raised everything, just about,
Meat?
meat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all
the families all come together around Thanksgiving and butchered all together. Yeah, they'd kill this year at my father's place. Next year they'd go to one of the other neighbors' place and kill. That's the way they usually did it.
And smoked
Well, they had smokehouses.
smokehouses.
smoke-
Time of
smoke-
year
If,
they-
if you had a little plot of land, one of the first buildings you had on that land was a meat house.
Meat house.
Yeah,
Meat
Every
house.
place they had a meat house.
yeah.
The meat house was where you kept the meat. Most of my family, for example, we raised pigs. So one of the big events of the year was butchering, hog killing time, and neighbors came to help each other.
Right.
And that meat was put in the meat house in a big barrel of brine
Right, and that's, I mean, it was brine too, salt.
to keep it from spoiling. See, this was before refrigeration. And then The
Let me ask you about whatever
first
interaction-
damp day in February, the first rainy damp day, my father would go down in the woods and cut up some hickory wood and smoke the meat. Build a fire in the meat house and smoke it. Then we'd hang it up and stay there until we got ready, till it was all consumed.
Did you have any interaction with white Carroll Countyans during the time you were growing up as you were young?
Well, if I may, when I was walking out White Rock Road to catch the school bus, the Bennett boys who lived right behind this church would meet me down on the other side of this church, and we would walk out White Rock Road together, stand beside the road waiting for, and they'd wait for their school bus and I'd wait for my school bus. Sometimes we'd luck up and we'd meet each other in the afternoon coming back home, so we'd walk back together.
Did you have any kind of organizations that interrelated? Did you have teams that played each other or anything?
No, I know I didn't.
No.
Uh-uh.
We had a ball team that played ball down in Sykesville, up on Oklahoma. That's where the team used to play.
But you always played other black teams?
Yes, no whites, it was all blacks.
Did you know of, or did you have any fear of any Ku Klux Klan activity or anything like that when you were young?
No,
I had never heard of Ku Klux Klan until I left Carroll County. I heard that Ku Klux Klan was here, but I'd moved. I was a grown man. I'd moved out of Carroll County then.
They never bothered us either.
Did you see signs in Sykesville that said this was whites only or blacks only?
No.
No signs?
I know they didn't know. Did you?
No.
No, we never had nothing like that. And they treated us very good too in them stores.
The only sign that I saw was on the comfort station in Westminster that said white women. Now, there were no signs in Sykesville, but it was understood that I would not go to the only restaurant, the Diamond Restaurant.
Yeah. Well, we
it was
knew.
understood that they didn't serve me.
We
It
knew.
was understood that I couldn't sit at the soda fountain in the drugstore or at the soda fountain at the confectionery store. That was understood, but the only sign I remember seeing in Carroll County was the one in Westminster at the comfort station.
there was, let's see, guy had, Mr. Ed Barnes, I think it was Ed Barnes. He had an ice cream store and a pool room. And like our bus driver would stop in Sykesville in the afternoon to get feed, pick up feed for his livestock. So we'd go in and get an ice cream cone. We'd ask for vanilla, and the man would say, "You mean chocolate, don't you?" And that's what they give you. If he was black, he got chocolate ice cream. Men back there can testify to it.
Wait, okay. Did any of you ever do any sit-ins? Did you ever try to change things in the restaurant in Sykesville, or you just said that's the way it is?
No, I just said that's
Just
the way it
that's
is.
the way it is.
That's the way it
We
is.
went along, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody seemed to
that-
put up no fuss about it.
He had a
It was
brother.
understood.
He had a brother up on the other end of town that had a little eat-in place and whatever. You could go in there and he treated you fine. He treated you fine. I think his name was Ed Barnes.
Yeah, I think it was too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Barnes.
Barnes is, uh-huh.
Yeah.
And what did your parents do?
My
for work? Or your
grandparents, yeah.
grandparents?
My grandfather, he worked at the paper factory, which was down a place called Ilchester. Uh-huh. And my grandmother, she just did, maybe something like the farm across the field to us. He would get her to cook for them the days that they had the, it was cutting hay and, or cutting corn or husking corn. Yeah, to fix the meals for them.
Or thrashing. Thrashing, yeah.
Thrashing, yeah.
Yeah.
So, or yeah, thrashing, either one.
Mr. Sheppard, what about your parents?
My mother was a stay-at-home mom. Now, my mother came to Carroll County as a school teacher, and I think she taught school till just before I was born. I was her 5th child, so she decided that maybe she needed to give up school teaching and became a full-time mother. My father, when I was a youngster, worked for the B&O Railroad. However, with the Depression, 1928 or 29 or something like that, he was furloughed from the railroad, and he did laboring work wherever he could for the next few years. Then he ended up working at Henryton. By the time I finished high school, I think he was working at Henryton.
Do you have any other interesting stories you'd like to tell us about your aunts or uncles, your parents, your school days, your work days?
I grew up and left Carroll County before the Civil Rights Movement. When I was a youngster living in Carroll County, that was way in the future. I came back to Carroll County as a teacher at the Robert Moulton High School, which was the school I graduated from. I came back, my field was physical education. I came back as a boys' physical education teacher. Robert Moulton was a high school, so each teacher had to teach many different subjects. So I taught boys' physical education, 8th grade core and 8th grade science. At that time, Carroll County had a high school basketball league. I was told that the league, all the teams had scheduled for that league was filled up, so I couldn't get in the league that year. If any school wanted to play me, they could. Nobody wanted to play me that first year except St. John's, which was a Catholic high school. Over the years, I ended up playing different schools at different times. I never did get in the league, but I ended up my last year there, I played all of the schools except one in Carroll County. I never had any racial incidents as I know about from playing those schools. Everything, as far as I know, went along very well.
Yeah, I think by us knowing that it was that way, we didn't.
You didn't rock the boat?
No, didn't bother. It didn't bother us. I mean, sometimes the family would talk about it, but they wouldn't. Didn't do nothing to cause any disturbance.
I want to thank you very much for taking the time to do this. It's very valuable for us. All right? Thank you.
Oh, thanks, yes.